Okay, this is Orlando Wilson. What I want to talk about in this video is people reinventing the wheel as far as tactical training is concerned, close protection, etc. To me, I find it amusing and also stupid. Humans are stupid. Why? We don't learn from history. People don't read history. People don't remember history. People are coming up with new tactics and techniques that have been done 1,000 times before for thousands of years. I was teaching a class, I think it was in Greece, and I said to the guys on the course, what's the difference between what we're doing today, what we're talking about today, and what people were doing in ancient times of Xenophon? The only difference is, back in those days, people never had technology. We got technology. Back in those days, they were using swords, spears, horses, etc., chariots. And these days, we have firearms were illegal, cell phones, cars. We have technology to help us. But the strategies and tactics are the same. Now, people have needed security since people have been on this earth. The close protection business is classed as the second oldest profession, behind prostitution. So, everything we're doing today has been done before. We just have technology. So we should be in a state of progression, but sadly you're in a state of regression. Why? Because people are stupid. The books are out there. I mentioned Xenophon's Anubis. It's a good book to do a mercenary warfare, and the issues they encountered is the same issues PMCs would encounter today. Don't ask me the date on when that book was written. You have Sun Tzu's Art of War. That was written, I think, 100 BC, so that book's 2,000 years old. And what he talks about is still relevant today. They were thinking and operating the same ways that we do today, if not to a higher standard, because they had a lot more to lose. The world was not as safe as it is today. Miyamoto Mushi, The Book of Five Rings. Classic. Firearms have been around now for quite a few hundred years. So I think every way of holding a pistol, holding a rifle, has been encountered and developed. But people are still coming up with new schools of thought on how to do this, on how to do that, and whatever. It's BS. People are inventing things, reinventing things to try to make themselves look intelligent instead of building on what's already there. So this is why you end up with so much BS in the world today. Classic texts on firearms is Fairbairn and Sykes' Shoot to Live, and also Hugh Hector Grant, the Palestinian Police Training Manual. One point on that. In Hector Grant's book, the Palestinian Police Training Manual, in other texts of his, they were shooting with Webley revolvers during the Second World War, Webley 45.5s out to 300 yards. On our courses, where we have the ranges, we have students shooting out to 100 meters. Now, we've had people say to us, oh, you can't do that, it's impossible to hit a target at 100 meters with a pistol. We reach out to 300 meters. Think about what I just said. During the Second World War, and Hector Grant was SOE, during the Second World War, with the old Webley 4.55 revolvers, they were practicing shooting out to 300 yards during the Second World War. I think the mechanics of pistols have improved greatly since then, and so has the composites and ballistics of bullets, ammunition. So if 80 years ago they were reaching out to 300 yards with a pistol, and those guys needed to, because when they were going ashore and raiding the Germans, generally with a couple of pistols and a bag of hand grenades, they needed to be able to reach out with their pistols to put suppressing fire down on any Germans that were chasing after them. So if they were doing that during the Second World War, shouldn't we be at a lot higher standard today? But sadly, most people have issues hitting targets with a pistol past 15 yards, 20 yards, etc. So again, humanity's in a state of regression. Just from pistol craft, I hope that's an example of how we're in a state of regression. If people were hitting out to, or practicing shooting targets at 300 yards during the Second World War, shouldn't we be out past that by now? But people have issues shooting at 25 meters. If we're talking about close combat, again, people talk about martial arts. I think every way of hitting somebody in the head has been discovered. People have been doing it forever. But people are coming up with new theories, new ways of doing it, etc. Knife defense. Well, I think if we go back to ancient times where the main weapons were swords, spears, and knives, I think the guys back then were pretty more astute than we are these days on how to defend against a sword, spear, or a knife. But people are coming up with new knife defense techniques, which to me are complete BS. I was talking to somebody recently about close combat, and they're coming up with all this, talking this social media influencer bullshit. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. But I'm being very good because I'm not swearing as much as I should be. Coming up with all this BS. And I said to them, let's go back 100 years. Let's go back a few hundred years. Let's go back to the time of the classic time of the cavalry, right? Horse soldiers. What was their primary weapons, be it during the American Civil War, be it during the Napoleonic Wars, etc.? Generally, it was a saber and pistols, flintlock pistols. Or in time, the American Civil War, black powder revolvers, etc. So I think those guys were pretty clued up on close combat because their primary weapons were pistols and sabers. And that was how they went to war. So I think those guys back then would have discovered and literally done a lot more, have a lot more experience of dealing with close combat than people would today. Another example, maritime boarding parties. In the times of the sailing ships, etc., the boarding parties were armed with sabers and pistols. So I think people back then were pretty clued up on close combat with blades and pistols. And I think the last British maritime boarding party was during the Second World War when they took a German ship, I think it was in the Baltic Sea. And again, the guys went boarded the German ship armed with Webley 45-5 revolvers and cutlasses. So when we think back, think about what I'm saying. If we look back through history, everything's been done before, especially as far as close combat's concerned. If we go back a couple of centuries, where the primary weapons, as I said, were swords, knives, clubs, etc., people had to rely on their skills to stay alive. And the world was a lot more dangerous place back then. So this is where I hear people coming up with all these new schools of thought on firearms training, martial arts, etc. It's BS. It's complete BS. If you're looking at training, keep everything simple and keep it real. Hurting people is not difficult. It's very, very simple. It's very, very easy if it's kept simple. I'll just bash on one point here. One thing that makes me laugh these days, which is a new technique as far as firearms training concerned, and I find it absolutely stupid, are these people that's come out with the grip for the AR-15 where you hold on to the top of the foregrip. You have to hold on the top because the recoil, to control the recoil. Bitch, if you can't control the recoil of a 223 round from an M4, I understand if you're shooting fully auto, maybe. If you can't control the recoil of a 223 5.56 round, if you need to hold the top of your foreguard to control that gun, bitch, stick to competition shooting instead of the close protection world, because obviously you're too weak to be in the close protection world. Just my thoughts, just my theories, but it looks cool on social media, right? It's a new technique, it's a new tactic. Anyway, that's my opinion on a few things. I'm going to be throwing out more of these videos on social media, so follow us along for my opinions, my views on a few things. And also we're putting out quite a bit of advice on the close protection business, kidnap and ransom, etc. I've also got an array of books online on Amazon to do with the close protection business. So check my books out on Amazon, follow us on social media, check our blogs out for the articles. And if you've got any relevant questions, feel free to reach out to me. But if they're not relevant, I won't get back to you. If they're relevant, I will get back to you. So be good, stay safe, stay out of trouble.